You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Juwan Howard Memorial Locked On Bulldogs podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. I am Daniel.
I'm Clint. Today's episode is brought to you by Sonos. Experience the game like never before with Sonos Arc, the premium smart soundbar for TV, movies, music, gaming, and more. Visit Sonos.com to learn more. Daniel, this just in. Getting something in the ear.
What's that?
A large load of Midwest nuts has landed straight onto Jim Harbaugh's head, and he is incapacitated right now.
Well, you hate to see it.
You hate to see it.
We have turned our attention a bit further south to the nuts down here, Clint.
Crazy people.
That reside in or around the fine state of Alabama.
You don't mean that.
Clint, I don't.
I
How
know.
could anyone?
No
People
one does.
from Alabama don't like Alabama, so it's not like I'm saying something disrespectful there. Georgia's in the national championship game, and quick update just around the NCAA. Florida hired the coach from Louisiana, who just won his first Sun Belt title in 4 tries.
Correct.
Okay, well, that's the update from around the NCAA. Clint, we're going into this game on Monday.
Yes, sir.
And there's so many feelings. And listen, if you're a fan like we are, and that's what this podcast is. If you're new, if you found us, welcome, subscribe. We are fans.
If Michigan fan is still here, and you don't understand, he knows now.
They know. Okay. We don't try to be anything else. We're Georgia fans. We assume that you're a fan. This is a place for fans, by fans. And so here's the thing. You're allowed to have ridiculous opinions. Like down there in the comments on YouTube, subscribe on the audio. You send us an email, lockedonbulldogs@gmail.com. We don't care. You're allowed to have ridiculous opinions. Sometimes we have ridiculous opinions. Do you want to know a dirty little secret, Clint, that Michigan fans have never learned? They've never learned this. Alabama fan, you need to know this too. And some Georgia fans, you need to know this as well.
This is a really educational. I was just going to, Daniel, thank you.
It's a real educational segment on the pod.
The more you know.
Let me say this to you. Our level of confidence, and by our, I mean Clint and me.
Correct.
Our level of confidence has, wait for it, nothing to do with how the Georgia football team plays. I know that sounds really obvious to some of you. But believe it or not, there are people in this world, and apparently based on the comments that I read, many people in this world
Lots of people
actually believe that my level of confidence in Georgia is going to make the Georgia football team play worse because they are taking an opponent lightly.
Look, it is like all of a sudden we're back in baseball season where the bat that I used at a certain point and the pine tar that I used and the fan in the stadium that sat at a 45-degree angle with one leg up onto the soda dispenser at there. Like, that doesn't make a lick of difference. Okay?
No, it does not.
You're thinking of something.
That was a weirdly specific callback that you just gave there from your youth. Listen, here's the thing. You could be like Clint early last week.
Yep.
And believe that Georgia's going to get taken to the woodshed, that they're the worst team in the history of college football, that everything that could possibly go wrong is going to go wrong. Or you could be like Clint at the end of last week.
There we go.
Who believed that Georgia was going to run Michigan out of the building and that we couldn't be beaten and stuff. Neither of those people had any impact on the game. You understand? Georgia was good. Michigan wasn't. That's what decided the game. Okay? Georgia was better coached. They had better players. They ran better plays, and they executed them better. That's why the game happened. Nothing that happens on this podcast, as important as this podcast is, nothing that happens here is going to determine the outcome of the game. All right, now that we have that public service announcement on the way, Clint,
wow,
let's talk about this Michigan game a little bit more, and let's try to translate it forward into the game that really matters, the national championship against Alabama. I think the thing that you and I were most impressed with in this game, though the defense played incredibly well, though Stetson Bennett balled out of his mind and proved not some people, but literally every people wrong.
Everybody
in this game. Okay. Yep. I think the thing we were most impressed with was the offensive game plan and the offensive play calling of Todd Monken, Clint. Let me regale you with touchdown, field goal, touchdown.
Now, Daniel, really quick, you just listed off, I think, let me understand this correctly. You talked about the scores that we had the entire game over 4 quarters of a game in a college football playoff game. Is that correct?
That was the first 5 drives of the game, scoring on each and every one of them. The score was 27-3 before Michigan knew what in the world had possibly happened to them.
5 drives, guys. 5 drives.
Touchdown, field goal, touchdown. Todd Monken was out there flexing. And by flexing, I mean Kenny McIntosh was spinning it to A.D. Mitchell in the end zone for a wide open touchdown.
Yeah.
Like, he was out there running things that he was just cackling to himself the entire time. Okay? We got the backs involved. We got the wide receivers involved. We got the tight ends involved. Not one of the tight ends, but all the tight ends involved in the passing game. The offensive line was clicking. The run balance, the run pass balance was fantastic. We were lining up in heavy personnel and throwing it down the field. Like goal line play to Brock Bowers. We were lining up in an I, there wasn't an I formation, it was a shotgun formation. We were running up in 3 tight ends and we were throwing it. We were spreading formation and we were giving it to Zamir White, first play of the game, right up the middle, 9 yards, and all of a sudden the tempo is just clicked in, and the next play of the game, run pass option to A.D. Mitchell, and there's not a defender within 200 feet of him over there on the left side when he caught that ball. Todd Monken was flowing in this game plan. Clint, is it the best offensively called game plan that you've seen from the University of Georgia this season?
You could take out this season, Daniel, if you wanted to. Okay? This was expertly precision on point the entire game. There wasn't one bad play call this entire game. When we were in passing downs, we were able to run and get on where we needed to do. When it was running downs, we were able to pass. We were ahead of the chains continually. All the weapons were involved. It was off balance the entire time. We had a safety dime package player, Dax, for Michigan, who apparently plays corner a bit, but out on the edge on George a couple times, where he's not going to be his best on there. He likes playing that slot a great deal more. We had linebackers out of position. We had safeties not knowing where they should go. We had out-schemed their defensive play calls to a T. Okay, guys? Like, to a perfect T. Everything about it. Yes, we had to execute, and we, in fact, went out there and executed to perfection. But Todd Monken gave us every opportunity. If we just executed to average, Daniel, like not excellent, but average, we still would have came away probably with 3 scores on the first 5 drives, just because of how it opened up and where the run plays were going to and how off balance Michigan was. Todd Monken, and gosh, look, I know y'all Georgia fans. I hear Bobo. I hear so many bad words in your mouth. Daniel, is there a better offensive coordinator that Georgia has seen than Todd Monken?
No.
0.
I mean, the person that maybe Mark Richt did some things when he was calling the plays when he first came to Athens that Georgia fans were not used to. Yep. Because Georgia fans were coming out of some pretty dark times in those eras before Mark Richt. We've chronicled that on the podcast. Mark Richt did some things that I think were eye-opening to a lot of Georgia fans, a lot of fun to watch to a lot of Georgia fans. But no, this Todd Monken is doing some things, and he's got the reins, and he is versatile, and he is multiple, and he's not a one-trick pony. Guys, like he is not an air raid guy. He is not a spread you out guy. He is a take my weapons and use them to destroy you. And I don't know if you've ever played Risk or you know, a war game in the backyard or something like that's sort of the point of the battle, right? You're supposed to take the weapons that you have.
Yep.
And you're supposed to use them to destroy the other team. That's what Todd Monken does. And it just so happens that this year, this team is loaded with weapons.
That's exactly right.
Loaded with weapons.
Across the board. We're going to come back. We're going to talk about how that Todd Monken offense future casts against Alabama this coming time. And as Daniel continues to train with the militia in the backyard, let me tell you about
it's weird times, Clint. You got to be ready. You don't know. You don't know. It's 2022, man.
Hey, Georgia fans, this is Clint with an incredible opportunity to everyone who buys gas. You need to know about this. Get Upside. Listeners right now are making up to 25 cents for every gallon of gas every time they fill up. Just download the free Get Upside app in App Store or Google Play right now. Use promo code SCORE and get a bonus 25 cents per gallon on your first fill up. That's up to 50 cent cash back. Don't pay full price at the pump anymore. Get cash back using Get Upside. Just download it to the app for free and use the promo code SCORE to get up to 50-cent gallon cash back on your first tank. Some people who drive a lot are making as much as $200 to $300 a month in cash back, and there's no catch. So the cash gets added right to your account. You can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Get Upside app and use promo code SCORE to get up to 50 cents gallon cash back on your first tank. That's code SCORE.
Now, Clint, the question on everybody's mind is, can Georgia do this when it matters the most? Can Georgia do this against Alabama for the national championship game? Can they do it? Can Stetson Bennett do it? Can the Georgia receivers do it when the game is on the line against Alabama? Tell me what makes you confident they can, and tell me what makes you nervous that they can't.
Here's confidence that they can. We touched on it a little bit ago in the pod yesterday. The offensive line is healthy and perfectly in tune and running on all cylinders. Okay, so last game against Alabama, the SEC championship, we saw some pressure get to Stetson, and he made some bad decisions when he got a little happy feet and he got a little happy brained. He started going ahead and making errant throws when he didn't need to, didn't have to. The offensive line is solidified and healthy. That's point one. Point two, we got everybody back at every single wide receiver position, tight end position, running back position. There's nobody we're missing right now, outside of one burner who, by the way, he was outside of his cast on the beach. I thought I saw him without the cast on the Arians. Yeah, I didn't know if that was factual or not. Okay. Anyway,
didn't notice.
We got everybody back, and Stetson's got that swagger, that confidence, Daniel. That is so paramount. So that's why I think it can stick in Todd Monken's game plan. Even last game, you want to talk about Brock Bowers, you want to talk about the things we were able to do. Yes, the interceptions. Yes, the pick six. Yes, the defense was off time a great deal, which put pressure on the O and Stetson to do things. That looks like it is solidified on the other end. And I have every thought in the world that our ability to stop them and hold them to less than 30 points is feasible in this game. I'm not saying it's a guarantee, but it's feasible, much more so. So those are the reasons why it can happen. Here's the reason why it can't happen.
No.
Okay. Sorry. Like here it is. Michigan doesn't have 5-star defensive backs and linebackers and defensive linemen. Hutchinson should have never been in New York. Ajobo should have never been spoken about at all. Yeah, you heard me. Hutchinson was fraudulent. The Heisman Trophy, fraudulent. Like, sorry. Okay. The reason why Alabama has talent all across the board on the defensive side, even on a down year, they're still incredible. They shut Cincinnati down. They shut a lot of teams down, including our offense to a great deal. They have playmakers still. And if Stetson goes ahead and gets that happy brain that he did in that game, which we've seen bad Stetson against Alabama twice now, Daniel. Okay? It's not great.
Oh, it's real. It's real.
It's a real thing. There's a possibility that, so that's even Todd Monken's great coaching and great scheming in the SEC championship that even got us to not just thrown out of the building after the start of the third quarter. Still wasn't enough, but he was able to put us in position that we could score points because of his incredible play calling ability. And because Stetson and Brock just said, we're here together no matter what. That same thing can happen come Monday, Daniel.
Yeah, twofold. Two things give me confidence. One of them you mentioned, one of them you did not. The two things that give me confidence that the same type of offensive performance that we saw from Georgia in the Orange Bowl, we could see again in the national championship game. One is the play of the offensive line. And I don't think it can be overstated the importance that Jamari Sawyer brings to this team. I think the offensive line is categorically different.
Massive.
Jamari Sawyer is healthy. And I think that goes a long way toward helping Stetson Bennett not get those happy feet. Because when you look at the numbers, the 2 interceptions is what Stetson Bennett did so poorly in this game. Clint, it's not like he was out there throwing for 160 yards at a 30% clip or whatever. It's not like Brock Bowers didn't get involved. It's not like he didn't hit George Pickens down the field a couple times.
Right.
It's not like James Cook had 4 catches in the game. Only averaged 7 yards a catch. Didn't hit him over the top for a big play like Georgia wanted to, like they did against Michigan. But James Cook was involved in the offense. The run game, though, could not get going against Alabama. Could not do anything against Alabama. 38 yards for James Cook. 35 yards for Zamir White, Clint. Are you kidding me? You can't win a game like that. I'm not saying Georgia has to buy into that national media narrative. They just want to run the ball and control the clock. They proved against Michigan they don't have to do that. They can beat you a number of ways. But they got to get something out of the run game to take some of the pressure off that passing game. So the offensive line playing better is paramount. I think they will play better because I think the health does matter. The second thing that gives me confidence about the offensive performance and Todd Monken's ability to call a similar game plan against Alabama that he did against Michigan is you mentioned Michigan doesn't have the talent that Alabama has in the secondary. But I will say, Clint, a lot of that talent ain't out there on the field. There's a lot of injuries out there on the field. Now, I'm not saying they don't have 5-star kids, 5-star true freshman kid out there. I don't know what his name is. I believe it's Kool-Aid. And, Clint, we've not talked about it here on the podcast, but I believe the man's name – I'm sorry. I believe the boy's name is Kool-Aid. Okay? That's all. That's the end of the sentence. I don't have any more sentence to say after that. And then they got number one, like the JUCO. He was the number one JUCO corner or whatever. But these are not the guys that started the season. There's been a ton of injury. They are super thin in the secondary. They might get some guys back for this game. I don't know. We haven't heard the status on all those guys yet.
Josh Jobe ain't one of them, Daniel.
Yeah, no, there's some guys that we know are not coming back for this game, to your point. So you want to talk about guys like George Pickens, guys like Jermaine Burton, guys who are on the outside. When you're that thin at corner, Clint, and hear me out on this, When you're that thin at corner, then all of a sudden it becomes a little bit harder to play in that dime, right? To play in that, even maybe to play in that nickel. You're playing a lot of nickel, but maybe you don't want to put that other DB on the field. Do you know what that means, Clint?
What's that?
It means maybe you're playing in that nickel, and so you're playing man-to-man.
Okay.
We got 3 wide. We got a tight end. And we got a running back with dreadlocks in the backfield.
Say more.
And he motions out to the outside. Who's following him out there, Clint? Who just whoop?
If you go ahead and put any
it ain't no
linebacker,
defensive back. It ain't
if
no
you put a
defensive back,
linebacker on James Cook, you just might as well say put 7 on the board right now. Like,
because Stetson hucking it. If he sees it, listen, Clint. We didn't talk about this yesterday. There was a man open on 3rd and 3. A man open for an easy first down.
Easy
first down. What did Stetson Bennett do?
He reached on back, reared back, and hucked it 50 yards down the field to James Cook, streaking down the sideline.
And then he put a dip in on the sideline and just watched the glory unfold. Okay.
Yes, he did.
The man out there rocking a lip
hammer. How is
hammer.
Stetson Bennett simultaneously Keanu Reeves and the kicker from the replacements at the same time?
How does Stetson Bennett not have a 6-figure dip NIL deal? You understand what I'm saying?
Right, that's clueless to me. You know, the only thing I think of is tobacco and college, like educational system, like they're blocking that somehow.
Yeah, you might be right. Listen, Stetson Bennett has got that bravado, and you thin in the secondary. That means you might get some of those linebacker on James Cook matchups, and Todd Monken's going to exploit those. He's going to call those. He's going to see that, and he's got to be aggressive in this game, Clint. Georgia cannot win against Alabama if Todd Monken is not, I'm not going to say ultra aggressive, but he has to be very aggressive in this game for Georgia to win. You have to make their
defense feel uncomfortable, okay? You can't keep rhythm, and it has to be uncomfortable for them. Hey, we're going to come back and talk about a few more things, but first I want to let you know about Netsuite. This is it, the putt to win the tournament. If you sink it, the championship is yours. But on your backswing, your hat falls over your eyes. Is this how you're running your business? Poor visibility because you still rely on spreadsheets and outdated finance software. To see the full picture, you need to upgrade to NetSuite by Oracle. NetSuite is the #1 cloud financial system to power your growth. Visibility and control over your financials, inventory, HR, planning, budgeting, and more. NetSuite is everything you need to do to grow all in one place. With NetSuite, you can automate your processes and close your books in no time while staying well ahead of your competition. 93% of surveyed businesses increase their visibility and control after upgrading to NetSuite. Over 28,000 businesses already use NetSuite. For the new year, NetSuite has a new financing program for those ready to upgrade. netsuite.com/locked. Head to netsuite.com/locked for this special one-of-a-kind financing offer on the #1 financial system for growing businesses, netsuite.com/locked.
All right, Clint. We've talked about the offense quite a bit.
Yes.
I'm going to move us to the defensive side of the ball for Georgia. Okay. I'm gonna focus exclusively on Monday, national championship game. And I'm going to ask you one simple question. Who is the most important defensive player for the University of Georgia on Monday night in Indianapolis?
It's very simple. I hate to oversimplify this, but it's very simple.
Okay.
There is an unknown right guard for Alabama who may or may not be playing. They already started the backup center against Cincinnati. Their right guard went down with an injury. Who knows what's happening there? They might be starting multiple starters out on the offensive line. Okay? The most important person is Trayvon Walker. Daniel.
Ooh.
That's it. Because if he plays like he did against Michigan, if he's getting pressure up the middle and Bryce Young has to try to escape. See, now this is the interesting thing, and we didn't talk about this on the pod yesterday, but a lot of people, I know Beal came in, and Beal's been doing an admirable job in place of Adam Anderson. Like, truly and honestly, he's been doing great, all right?
He has been.
But the thing that Georgia has done to try to replicate the pressure from Adam Anderson is actually sending Nakobe Dean and Channing Tindall and Quay Walker on blitzes. That's how we've tried to say, instead of trying to replace Adam Anderson, we're not going to do that. Let's have Beal be Beal. Let's try to add pressure with inside blitzes and then bringing Nakobe on the edge. Here's what I think is, I could see this being a very high possibility. Trayvon Walker gets that gut pressure right in the face of Bryce Young. And when did we see Bryce Young be bad Bryce Young, Daniel? Auburn.
Texas A&M.
And what happened in those games, Daniel?
Alabama was real bad.
Real bad. They got pressure up the gut. Bryce Young was off time. Bryce Young didn't have his Houdini tricks because he was out of his zone. I think Trayvon Walker is the most important because if he's able to exploit mismatches on the offensive side, if he's able to get the pressure on rundowns, I have no problem. Or running plays, I have no problem. I think we're going to stuff him. No worries. We did that in the second half. Robinson is not going to gut off 25-yard runs, Daniel. He's going to get maybe 3, 4, or 5-yard clips. That's his game, okay? I think getting interior pressure to make him spill so that Nakobe and Channing could then sprint to the outside like they've done to try to track him down, that's the most important player for us. We didn't get any pressure last time, which is why Bryce Young had all day to pick us apart.
Listen, you're not going to get any arguments from me that pressure on the quarterback is critical in this game. Okay. But you said this is simple. I don't want to oversimplify it. It's simple. And I felt confident that I knew the name that you were going to say.
Stay deepest as the deep.
Again, you're never going to get an argument from me that we need pressure on the quarterback in this game. But the most important player for the University of Georgia on Saturday is Lewis Cine. Because Lewis Cine needs to do what Lewis Cine was brought to the University of Georgia to do, which is be a safety.
Wait, hold on.
Safety.
Where does that person play, Daniel?
They play in the back of the secondary.
Oh,
do you understand?
Interesting. Okay. I'm starting to.
Because look, Alabama's got some weapons. It's not just, I want to say it's Darian Kendrick, okay? Mm-hmm, because Mechie's out, James Williams is the big name wideout. But there's plenty of other guys that can catch the ball on that team, okay? They're not as talented as Alabama wide receivers in the past. But you can't stop them with just, for example, DK or Keely Ringo having a great game, right? You're not going to shut down the Alabama passing game with a corner, right?
No, sir.
You have to stop the Alabama passing game with the safeties because the most important thing that you can do against Alabama is keep everybody in front of you. Because it doesn't matter whether Bryce Young has 2 seconds or 10 seconds. If you bust in the coverage, and let me just remind you, Georgia fans, 3 weeks ago, Lewis Cine busted in the coverage a bunch of times. If you bust in the coverage, Bryce Young's going to see it, and he's going to get that ball out. And there's nothing that Trayvon Walker can do about it when the guy is running wide open down the field. Lewis Cine, they ran a flea flicker, Michigan did, on the second play of the game, Clint.
Yep.
And Lewis Cine took one step towards the line of scrimmage, and then he hit him with that back pedal. He hit him with the turn your hips and run, and he was right on that guy. And they checked it down for 5 yards, and you and I texted each other, this game is over. You understand? The game is over. Because I don't know if you know this, Clint, but Michigan leads the country in plays of over 50 yards. Do you know that?
I heard that.
17 of them, most explosive plays in all of college football. So it's just something to think about. Michigan does that. If you keep everything in front of you against Alabama, you make Bryce Young dump it down. Maybe you don't get to him every single time, but Bryce Young does not want to run the ball. Okay, He wants to be Patrick Mahomes back there. He wants to dance around. He wants to flip it sidearm. He wants to underhand it. He wants to throw it between the legs. He wants to bounce it off somebody's head. He wants to do whatever. But he does not want to run the ball. If you make him stand back there and you keep everything in front of him, then you're going to have a heck of a lot more success against Alabama. You can't give up the home runs. You got to make them march it down the field because that is not what they want to do. They were content to do that against Cincinnati. But listen to me. Number one, Georgia ain't Cincinnati. Number two, Georgia's not coming out here in a 3-3-5 the whole game. Number three, Georgia ain't Cincinnati. Okay.
Oh, that's unique.
I pray that Alabama tries to run the ball against Georgia, but I know they won't because Nick Saban's not an idiot.
Okay, Georgia fan, I need real talk. No one's here, but they are not going to game plan like they did against Cincinnati. Let's do business and let's get out of here. Let's just get a W. Let's get out of here. Whatever. They are not going to try to run it on us. I can guarantee you.
Brings up an interesting question, Clint. A question maybe for tomorrow. How are they going to try to game plan? How do you beat Georgia if you're Alabama? Because they did just beat the crap out of Georgia. How do you game plan to beat? Is it because of the way they game planned? Interesting questions. Maybe we'll get some of those answers tomorrow. All right, look, the national championship game is less than a week away. Get your mind right. I don't know what kind of prayers you need to be throwing up. I don't know what kind of fasting and meditations you need to be doing, but it needs to happen now. It needed to happen yesterday. Okay? Get it right, Georgia fans. We will be back tomorrow and each and every day this week here on the Locked On Bulldogs podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. See ya.
See ya.